Let's talk to former Labour MP Bill Rammell, friend of the show. Morning, Bill. You can probably sense our frustration and certainly my anger that Tony Blair has taken this week to burst onto the stage and to talk about what are effectively globalist vision for this country. We need to sort our own house out before we start talking about putting money in the pockets of the Tony Blair Foundation.
Well, look, it's a non-profit making organisation, and I think Tony was talking.
How much is he worth? Bill, how much is Tony Blair worth? How many millions, how many hundreds of millions is that man worth as a former Prime Minister?
And how much is John Major worth? And how much is David Cameron worth?
Nothing like what Tony Blair is worth. Nothing like it.
I don't think that's actually true. And this is a non-profit making foundation. Look, let's cut to the chase. He was talking an awful lot of sense about the priority for growth, the priority for planning reform, and the use of technology. This conference had been planned, as Andrew said, months and months in advance. None of it takes away from the way that this Labour government, led by Keir Starmer, has frankly hit the ground running, reaching out to all parts of the United Kingdom to try and restore the union, tackling immigration, turbocharging growth through significant planning reform, wedge-streeting, meeting with the junior doctors through the BMA today to get a resolution to their dispute that we desperately need. I have to say, after 3-4 days in power, this has been a really good start.
Were you not uncomfortable that there was Blair on the front page of the Sunday Times laying down the law in an op-ed article? Shouldn't he have waited? Not the first weekend of a new government, and now knowing that this conference was being held this week. Now, you heard me say earlier, of course this was booked months in advance, but the big article telling him what to do on immigration, and then the conference today, it does create an impression, which I suspect Blair doesn't mind, that he's very much back in vogue with in terms of
charge.
Well, I mean, I do think, and there was one sentence in Tony Blair's article at the weekend about cutting immigration that has got a lot of headlines. And I do think Tony should recognise, one, that this Labour government is committed to cutting immigration, both illegal immigration, but also legal migration, but also should recognise that the inheritance of this Labour government led by Keir Starmer is so much more challenging than when Tony came to power in 1997. Now, Tony's done what he's done. This conference was long planned. Be in no doubt moving forward, and Keir has demonstrated that clearly over the last few years with ruthless leadership of the Labour Party, that he is in charge and he will set the direction for the party and the government as we move forward.
Bill, you were elected in 97 in that first Blair landslide. I don't think the atmosphere has any comparison. I was reporting the Blair landslide in 97 as a political correspondent for the Times then. There was huge excitement, genuine optimism about this young telegenic Prime Minister. This landslide has been predicated on the smallest share of the vote probably ever for a government with a majority. Why isn't there the same enthusiasm for Starmer?
I think in major part because the country is punch drunk after the chaos and division of the last 14 years of the Conservatives. The lies, the deceiving, the economic chaos, constant change, and no sense of purpose and direction. And yes, that's about the last Conservative government, but that infects people's attitudes towards all parties. And I think that's why, and I've said it previously on your programme, I think this is probably the first government elected with a landslide without enthusiasm. But I think there is the prospect of delivering real, measurable change that will begin to reconnect with people. And as I said earlier, if you look at the early steps of this Labour government over the last 3 to 4 days, they very much have hit the ground running. And it will be about delivery. It will be about demonstrating that we can reform the planning system, that we can build the houses that are needed, that we can generate the economic growth to enable us to invest more in public services. And I think as that happens, you'll begin to see greater support moving forward.
Bill, do you not worry when you hear Tony Blair talking in that way? And I would also say Rishi Sunak before him, about AI being the solution to all of our problems. Do you never wonder about the question, what are people going to do for jobs? Because AI, inevitably, a lot of this tech changes and we have to move with the times. We cannot be complete Luddites when it comes to technology. We have to accept some of it. But it really worries me when I hear Tony Blair speaking in a sort of utopian megalomania way that this is going to save us all. We never hear, and the jobs people are going to do are X.
I think there's a modicum of truth in that, Bev.
A lot.
Hold on. Technology can help us to get greater productivity within the public sector, and that is welcome. But we also need to be interventionist to actually protect, for want of a better phrase, some of the worst excesses of AI and technology, and particularly to work out and protect where the jobs of the future are coming from. And if you want to contrast between this Labour government led by Keir Starmer and the last Labour government led by Tony Blair, this is a government that's going to be much more interventionist in the jobs market, in industry. You know, one of the big things that's been happening over the last few days is the negotiations with Tata Steel, the state intervening to support and maintain British jobs.
Well, hang on, Bill. I think the
last Labour government.
No, I think the last Tory government was talking to Tata about intervening. I think they're just carrying on where the Tories left off.
We're doing it much more effectively, and we're going to deliver a result over the next few weeks that will protect thousands of jobs in Wales and elsewhere within the UK. But I'm making a broader point that, you know, you need a government that meets the challenges of the age that you're living in. And I think this Labour government, led by Keir Starmer, is going to be much more interventionist than when Tony Blair was Prime Minister.
All right,
I think that's
Bill.
a good thing.